let us go ahead. I was trying to explain with this slide what is the importance of manufacturing in any country, especially developing countries. So now the main idea, second idea behind classification of behind the introduction chapter. I told you, if you remember in the beginning of the course, that introduction has two purposes. One is to excite you about the course and to make you feel that the course is very important for the world and especially for engineering graduates. And the second is that have an overall idea of the whole course. So the slides up till now were there to excite you and make you feel that this is a very important course. It is not that I am trying to make you feel it. It is that it is a very important course. There is no engineering without manufacturing. But it is just that, do you recognize it? Do you feel that it is very important, right? So that has been done. So now the overall view. So classification of manufacturing processes. This is manufacturing in general. Manufacturing in general. There is some starting material. Then there is the manufacturing processes, right? Whatever manufacturing process you select for this material, there will be some machinery needed, some tooling needed in that machines, there will be some power, energy required, and there will be some manpower or labor. So these machines, tools, energy, manpower, these are required for any manufacturing processes. And once the material goes through whatever manufacturing there is, then there is the process part, whatever is the outcome, and there is some scrap or waste, isn't it? So this is manufacturing in a nutshell, that you start with some raw material, you make it go through a manufacturing process which requires all of these. There is a final product which you will use, and there will be some scrap generated. Now this scrap can be wasted, or this scrap can be reused by recycling or other processes, and it goes to the raw material again, right? So either the scrap is a waste or it can be recycled. So now you are thinking more and more and more as an engineer to design and to manufacture in such a way that the waste is reduced and that the majority is recycled. Now this is again one of those brilliant diagrams. Of course, this diagram will be there in some other books also, but this type of a diagram, again, in one diagram, there is the whole field of manufacturing, right? So we will take a lot of time on this, and later on in the slides, because we would have already explained to you here, then maybe we can go very quickly. So this is the whole field of manufacturing. The whole field of manufacturing. What are the different processes, different techniques, different methods that are there in manufacturing? Two broad categories: processing operations and assembly operations. The names are very clear. Here we are processing, basic processing. We are changing the shape and the size of the material. And by processing, you create many parts, nuts, bolts, bearings, this, that. When you have a lot of different parts, you have to join them together to make the whole product. So this is the basic manufacturing. Manufacturing of converting from raw material into different parts and joining those parts, assembling those parts to get the full product. If you take your phone, you have the screen, you have the body, you have the back screen or back part, you have the cameras inside, you have the circuit boards inside, you have the speakers inside, right? So there are hundreds of parts. Each part very carefully has been manufactured separately. So manufacturing of each part is here. And once all of the parts for your phone have been created, should we join them by welding or bolting or chemical bonding or whatever? All those are assembly operations. So this is manufacturing of individual parts or components. This is combining all the parts and components into a large product. Okay, so therefore manufacturing is divided into these two big ones. Now this is all of the basic manufacturing. So shaping operations, processes where you change the shape, property enhancing, you have made something but you want to increase its strength or hardness and so on. Surface processing, you have produced the whole thing but the surface is rough, you want to increase the surface finish. So in processing operations, shaping is the most fundamental basic manufacturing, changing the properties and changing the surface. So processing operations, which is the basic manufacturing, is divided into these three. In these three, this is the heart of manufacturing. So if you come from the whole world of manufacturing, then processing operations, then shaping operations, and then these. So these are the topics, the chapters of this course. Solidification processes, in which you melt and then solidify. Particulate processing, you start with a small powder or particle and then you do the manufacturing. Deformation process, you don't melt, you directly apply forces to change the shape, deform. Or material removal, you cut and drill and so on and remove material and give the shape. So these are the different chapters, the basic chapters of a manufacturing course, and all of these are changing the shape of a material. You take any material, whether it is a metal or a ceramic or a polymer or a plastic, and you go through these processes where you will change the shape, give it a certain shape, give it a certain dimension, and you will have. Now, right, you started with a certain type of plastic or glass or a mix of plastic and glass, and you wanted to make the screen of your phone, the screen of your phone, right? So you select a certain plastic or polymer or a certain glass or a certain mix of plastic and glass, and then there should be certain special machines and tools which will convert it into this particular shape of the screen, the exact thickness, the exact length and breadth, the exact surface finish, the exact amount of see-through, right, transparency. So all that will be done through specific machines, and you started with some raw material and you have a final product which is the screen. Later on, of course, you will create the body and you will create the back and so on. So you will have to go to assembly operations, right? You will have to later on go to assembly operations to join the front screen, the back screen, the body and so on. So shaping processes, processing is the major manufacturing area in which shaping is there. So these will be the chapters. But then when you have produced anything, do you want to increase its strength or increase its hardness or increase its transparency, right? So property enhancing operations. Here we are showing only heat treatment as one of the methods by which property can be increased. There are other methods also for increasing the properties, Surface properties, right? The part is very good, it is very strong, it will work well, but the surface finish is good or bad. So cleaning and surface treatments and coating and deposition. You can clean it so that the surface is very clean and you can do some surface treatment, or you can coat the surface by some other material or deposit some other thing, right? So all this now is the basic manufacturing. In the assembly type, there are two big categories: permanent joining or temporary joining, which they are calling mechanical fastening. Fastening means to join something. To fasten means to join, right? English language is English language. I mean, you see, fastening could have been going fast, but that is a speeding, right? So the word fast has two meanings. One meaning is to go fast, and two pieces are joined very strongly, so the joining is a very fast. These are fast friends. You may have heard of it. These are fast friends. So the joining, the coupling between these friends is very strong. So therefore, the second meaning of fast friends, right? So fastening is joining them together, right? So assembly operations are permanent and temporary. In permanent, welding, brazing, soldering, adhesive bonding, glues, and so on. In mechanical fastening, temporary ones, threaded fasteners, and so on, right? Nuts, bolts, rivets, and so forth. So your whole field of manufacturing is divided into the processing side and the assembly side. In the processing side, you have shaping processes, processes that change the properties, and processes that change the surface. In the assembly side, there is permanent joining and temporary joining. In the shaping, there is melting and solidification, particle processing, deformation, and material removal, right? So this is very, very critically important. As I said, brilliant one-page look at the whole world of manufacturing. Of course, then there will be many more modern manufacturing methods which are not mentioned here and so on. They will go inside. So now the slides, the remaining slides, most of them will be explanation of this page. So as we said, two basic types in manufacturing: processing and assembly. We have already talked of it, so you can read through it later. And then this slide, that the processing operations, which are the basic ones, not the assembly ones, then they are shaping, solidification, and so on. I am showing you casting, melting and solidification. I am showing you material removal, right? I am showing you some chemical processes for surface improvement. I am showing you some modern CNC machines and so on, right? So, but these you already know from the table. Still the shaping operations, if you go only to the shaping operations, then they are divided into solidification, particulate, deformation, and material. We have already. Then we go to each one of them, right? So solidification process. Solidification, as soon as you say solidification, so there is some liquid already there, isn't it? If you have to solidify something, there is liquid already there. So the starting material is heated sufficiently to transform into a liquid or a highly plastic state, right? A liquid or a highly plastic state. You know your material science, you know elastic plastic. So this is not the plastic material. This is the plastic deformation state. But you melt it, right? Simply you melt it, right? Examples: metal casting and plastic molding are examples of solidification. So you see this is casting. You have melted the metal. You have a mold here. You have a mold here, and you pour it, and it goes through the whole system, and it goes into the mold, and you allow it some time to solidify. And once it solidifies into a solid, you break the mold. You take this out. This is extra material. This you will break and throw away, and this will be your casting, whatever it is, right? Similarly, if you are in a plastic injection molding machine, then the plastic will be melted and it will be forced into a die, and it will be allowed to cool, and when you will take it out, it will be the shape you have. So solidification means melting and solidifying, and it means that you are making some dies or molds, right? You are making some dies or molds because you will melt the metal or the plastic or the composite or whatever, and you will let it flow or pressurize it into a die or a mold, and then you will cool it. And once you remove the die or break the die, then what will be left behind will be your material. And of course, there will be some extra material, the waste material or the scrap material, which you can either recycle or waste. So this is one of the methods of manufacturing, solidification processes.